Yeah, I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Pampered fat cats with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with Extended.
That's the thing I didn't know about was like cyclists, dude. In the Tour de France, those dudes are just eating bananas the whole time while they're on their bikes.
Oh yeah.
They got it in like a bag somewhere. Where do they keep the bananas?
I think someone's handing it off like a pit stop.
Oh,
I think
Just mouth open as they're biking by. You get a line of like 4 people though, just in case. Yeah.
Welcome to Extended Clip. It's episode 451, and I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm JT White.
And joining us once again, per usual in the month of October, Rob Franco.
Hello.
Today, as we continue the Baby Bobby Franco Halloween mindset takeover, we are talking about a film that has been on my watch list for quite a while now. And when Rob suggested it, I just immediately said, yes, it's time for Jack Clayton's The Innocents from 1961, starring Deborah Kerr, shot by Freddie Francis, and based on a novella by the god of cinema himself, Henry James. Rob, I'm guessing this is also one that's just been kind of like backgrounded in your watch list for a while as well.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time, locked in the watch list and just waiting for the right opportunity. And boy, was it ever the right opportunity, because this is pretty amazing.
Malcolm, JT, neither of you had seen this either, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
very.
I went in again like knowing it had a pretty strong critical reputation, but pretty blind other than that. Just a movie that I felt like I should have watched a while ago.
We've all known this movie's supposed to be pretty good for a while, but we just been putting it off, and now that we finally seen it, we're like, okay, everyone was right. They were right. Flowers to everyone.
Yeah, no, I have a distinct memory of Josh relogging this on Letterboxd out of 5 and just being like, what is The Innocents? Like some 60s British horror movie I had never heard of, and that was probably 3 years ago, and I think I've had a file of it for quite some time now and just never pulled the trigger until now. And I have to be honest, I didn't even realize it was based on Turn of the Screw, the Henry James novella that's probably his most famous work, at least these days. And I think part of that is because of this movie and subsequent adaptations. Turn of the Screw has been adapted several times in different forms, most recently as a mini-series. I think like Mike Flanagan was involved. But yeah, I was just like really taken aback by this. Freddie Francis, the cinematographer, alongside director Jack Clayton, doesn't just translate Henry James to the cinema, because I think that's kind of impossible. He's such a singular author, but instead takes what's so compelling about his narrative and prose style and kind of gives you cinematic examples of potential equivalents, whether they be deep focus or high contrast black and white, to kind of stylistically mirror the sentence and narrative structure of Henry James's writing, or the characterization, or anything like that, the perspective, and also just on its own terms. This is just like one of the best like spooky house movies I've ever seen, probably. Deborah Kerr is what they used to call a governess, who is hired by the uncle of 2 rich children, and she goes to take care of them, but all is not that it seems, as 2 previous servants of the family who have passed away seem to be haunting the grounds through the bodies of the children. But could it potentially just be in the mind of the governess? As many films in this subgenre go, reality slowly kind of crumbles around the perspective of its main character, whose perspective we're often watching through, and the psychosis grows and the film style heightens as it goes, and I just loved this.
Yeah, I think going into it, the very beginning, it presents the idea. I was like, oh man, we're gonna get the evil children horror movie, which I'm not necessarily crazy about as a genre, but I think feeling it out, it definitely got me at first. Where it's like, okay, that's probably the direction, but it is a save the children horror movie. I really enjoyed how it went that way, because I think that's I don't know, something a little bit more compelling, and just also treads into a lot darker territory then.
Yeah. Rob, what did you think about this one?
So going into it, I don't know why I always associated this movie with the Robert Wise The Haunting.
Me too. Poster colors,
the
maybe.
Posters, I don't know. Something about the posters were maybe a little similar, and just because it's black and white, haunted house, similar time period, both praised by Martin Scorsese. I kind of always just associated these movies together. I recently, 2 days ago, rewatched The Haunting on a 16mm print, the micro cinema at the Vista, and was kind of disappointed by it. I remember liking it the first time, but I don't know. It didn't have the same impact on a rewatch.
I just want to quickly interrupt here and say that it's potentially a shortcoming here of that micro cinema, because The Haunting, like this, is a CinemaScope movie.
Yeah,
and it was, I'm guessing, cropped
100%.
to 4:3.
It was cropped. So that maybe wasn't the best opportunity for a rewatch for sure. But anyway, so going into this one after kind of being disappointed by revisiting The Haunting, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's gonna be mid, maybe it won't be scary. Some of these old horror movies you watch, and it's obviously a movie from 1960s isn't going to scare you, but you can watch it and be like, I can understand being an audience member in 1961 and being scared by this or whatever. And then some of them you're like, you guys are fucking babies. What was going on in your life where the seventh victim scared you baby? So that out of the way, watching The Innocents, and wow, it delivered.
Yeah.
Not only did it deliver, it's scary, but it's scary in a really subtle way.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it with Malcolm last night, and there's just a cut to she's looking out in the marsh. She's overlooking the river, and it just cuts, and you just see a woman in black. And I just said, "Oh Jesus!" It's just and not only should that not necessarily be scary, because we didn't see it before, we didn't know that there was no one there before. It's just she could have been there. It could have just been a woman, but for some reason, the way it cuts and you see that woman in black, you're like, "Yeah, what's that creepy bitch doing?"
Also, it just reinforces so much about not just this movie, but its source material as a biblical style influential text, in my opinion. I think that this movie just hits so many things before other iconic horror movies do, down to the interview between Deborah Kerr and the uncle being extremely evocative of The Interview from The Shining, And I think it's a completely different perspective on a location bringing about psychosis within a person, because in The Shining, we're in Kubrick vision, and then in this film, I mean, Freddie Francis's cinematography is extremely all over the place in the best way possible, but it still has the subjectivity of Deborah Kerr's character, which is interesting to note because the perspective of the source material is not that, The source material itself is a story within a story within a story. The source material opens with the narrator saying, I was at a campfire when this old guy told me this story about this old spooky house, So it's stories within stories within stories. And of course, Henry James is just like a god of storytelling, so he knows how to use that manipulation toward the audience. But I also think that like The Woman in the Marsh, I mean, that's earlier this year. Jean-Claude Serra's Woman in the Yard. That's just like
Yeah.
a third of this source material. Like, it's like he took 5 pages of Turn of the Screw and made a movie out of it, you know? And I just feel like this movie put so much together for me as far as like horror history. And it totally makes sense as to why it's the most popular Henry James story, because like it's his big gothic horror story, and people are always looking for, you know, gothic horror source material, even if I prefer his stories that are, you know, more about other milieus. But regardless, I also, just before, you know, we get too deep into the text of this movie, because he is one of my favorite authors and been such an inspiration to me as of late, I also wanted to like note something about the cinema of Henry James, where it goes in so many different fucking directions. And I really think that there's something about his grand storyteller point of view within his prose style. And it's aided by the fact that he never wrote a word. He dictated his prose and nonfiction. He spoke it out loud because he wanted to make sure that reading it out loud would sound perfect. And it kind of reminds me of like the old master storytellers like an Orson Welles or something like that, where it just lends itself to the storytelling aspect of cinema that I so often forget about while focusing on form. And so I think about films like Truffaut's The Green Room and Bogdanovich's Daisy Miller, and this film by Jack Clayton, and they seem incredibly disparate, right? Like on an aesthetic level, and yet the storytelling, and they're incredibly disparate on a genre level too, and yet the storytelling feels like from frame one, you're in the hands of a master. And I think that these Henry James novellas and stories and novels are just like, to me, again, to use this word, they feel biblical to me. They feel like the foundational holy texts in a way. And I think The Innocents is one of the very best of them that I've seen. Bonello's The Beast is, of course, another great one. But anyway, back to this movie. Let's talk about this movie and not, you know, books for nerds written by an American guy in England in the late 19th century. Nobody wants to hear about that shit.
Sorry I was silent for a little bit. I was sleeping because Eddie was so boring with his book talk.
But like, I mean, when you get a line like the kid saying the line like the kid saying big rooms get bigger at night, that's like an incredibly Jamesian line, and also is like a perfect line for a creepy kid to say. And in terms of like the biblical, like foundational implications of this, it starts with just like creepy kids singing over the opening credits. Like, this is like one of the first
The
films.
opening credits being a woman praying.
Exactly. Yes. And it's just, I don't know. I think it locks you into the future of the genre, but through the past of the genre through other mediums. You know, it's like the future of horror film through literary means. And I find that to be an incredibly interesting intersection of the two mediums. But let's talk about how spooky this movie is too.
Well put. So my first observation would be that there's always a curtain moving in the background, which I love. There's always a curtain moving. There's always little children singing. And we have a beautiful widescreen frame.
Yes. The widescreen frame also loses and regains focus in a dreamlike state, I would say. It's not that any of the film is in soft focus, but while the camera roams around the estate, it will shift its focal point in such a subtle way where you will realize that, like, oh, this take has had like 5 different points of focus. And it's a really like elegantly shot movie, but it's not just beautiful. It leaves you with a mystery of what's in the shadows, and the blacks are so deep in this that you have no idea what could be in the shadows.
Yeah, like the movie, you know, with it being so honed in on Kerr and her reaction and, you know, kind of following her movements for a lot of it. It kind of, you know, at first it kind of like sells like how big the house is, you know, like I think of that scene where she kind of first walks in and kind of like grazes the dead roses and a couple petals fall off. And, you know, she's just kind of soaking it in, and it'll like dolly, it'll kind of shift perspectives, and it's all on her. And like, you realize like, oh, the kids have run off somewhere. You know, I guess in that instance, it's just Flora. Miles hasn't come back from school yet, but, you know, Flora's running off to, you know, God knows where with this huge house. And it's just that effect becomes so much more kind of horrifying, as her main objective is like, I got to keep these kids in sight, you know. And I just love, like, the cinematography does so much, while at the same time, like, I don't know, when you think of a haunted house movie, you think of a lot of it being sold in the production design, and the production design is great, but it is like more kind of Kerr's reactions and kind of mental state that kind of propel this movie forward. And I don't know, it's such a, when you think of like a CinemaScope haunted house movie, I don't know, that you don't necessarily expect a lot of those frames to be filled with faces and stuff like that, but that's what we get here, and the effect is, you know, really great.
Absolutely.
We also the editing of the movie is also quite spectacular, because there's a dreamlike quality to it, where we're kind of floating from scene to scene, and it's unclear. Like, there is one full-on dream sequence that just morphs into reality,
Yeah.
in a way that I've never seen before. Like, the whole dream sequence it's a bunch of different cross dissolves going over each other, and then one of them forms into what's going on the next day, without any real grand reveal of how this is where we are now. It just morphs from the dream into this scene, which I've never seen before, something like that. Or there's an incredible shot that, like, while Malcolm and I were watching it, I just said, oh my God, that's incredible, where it's a shot of the staircase, and it just cuts to her opening the door, but the way it's like, I want to call it a match cut, but it's not, because maybe my eyes were deceiving. The image like morphed into her opening this door, in a way that do you know the shot
I know
talking
exactly
about,
what you're talking about, Rob. And
it was amazing.
There's a couple instances of this where it's playing with form similar to a match cut, and it's like clearly a very cheeky edit meant for the viewer to put the two images together with a very like off-putting transition too. That's the thing, is like that those transitions contribute to the dreamlike feeling quite a bit, as well as the sense of time, which truly does not fucking exist in this movie. So like when she gets there, and then there's like a couple scenes later, and then I don't know, her dynamic with Flora implies that she's been there for quite some time, and they like really have grown accustomed to each other already. But it's like within 2 minutes of screen time, and it gives a sense that like she could be there forever, and this haunting could be going on forever, and these kids could be even permanently stuck in the ages that they are, you know. I don't know, it just really erases any proper sense of time, which is horrifying into itself, you know.
Yeah, that really hones in on kind of just like the isolation of taking a job like this, you know, just kind of thinking in a simple sense. It's just like, you know, what it takes to, I don't know, just go live in just a random, huge, scary mansion and just live there your whole life. Like someone like, I don't know, who's not even, you know, someone like Miss Gross. I don't know, it gives a extra emphasis to kind of just the unsettling nature of, you know, everything that's going on here. Because it's just, you know, when you're out in the country, you know, there's no barometers of time besides like, you know, daylight and nighttime. Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like with, you know, kind of the Kerr and the Miss Gross character, you know, it's just kind of called in, their mental state's just always kind of called into question. And just a job like this just seems it's just for you to kind of dedicate your life to saving the children, as we see, you know, in the opening credits. It's such an intense thing to work like this.
And also, like, I think that the sense of unease ratcheting up the way it does when Miles shows up is done so well, because, like, you know, something's a little off at first, obviously. But when it's just her and Flora, it's like, all right, there's a way here for them to exist. And then the film's form matches the narrative so well, where the first example of a proper, like, deep focus with two faces at completely different focal points and looks completely jarring is when she opens the letter that reveals Miles has been expelled from his school. And it's like the weirdest cockeyed angle of her in close-up reading it and Miss Gross in the background, like, kind of remaining measured about the situation. And it's just like, from that point on, you know, things are getting, like, fucked up. And, you know, the first time that Miles shows up, he gives her flowers, and it reminded me of how Martin Short is with Mary Steenburgen and Clifford, the way he's, like, quasi flirting with her, giving her flowers, and there are a couple of kisses in the movie that also are a bit creepy.
So one of the movies I kept thinking about while watching this was Birth, because there's a perversity to this movie that's, like, between a child and grown woman, that I was like, that just is so strange. And you have this, like, little boy acting like a grown man in the creepiest possible way. Sorry, JT, I cut you off.
No. That was pretty much what I was going to hit on the head there. I do think, like, that, like, interplay there, it just makes the psychology of all of it, like, just so much more distressing, because you get into Deborah Kerr's character's, like, psychology that does feel, like, so warped, where you can like, especially towards the beginning, I think you can kind of read it, like, the both ways, where it's just like, okay, maybe, like, there might be some haunted like, things going on here, a little spooky business. But then the more you get entrenched in it, the more it's just like, okay, like, this woman, like, really obsessed with, like, the idea of, like, these older, like, spirits invading children. And then again, just like the boy-woman flirtation is just so uncomfortable there. You really feel like it's more reflective of her own feelings than anything else. And that's when I don't know, it just, like, being able to indulge with that at all, I think, just makes it so much grimmer.
Yeah, you know, Rob said that dynamic reminded him of the movie Birth. I couldn't help but think of Little Man, the Wayans brothers movie, where, you know, you kind of have, like, the superimposed man face on the little person, and they're, like, enthusiastic to, like, breastfeed with their new mother. Obviously, Miles is a little more subtle, a little bit more elusive than the, you know, titular little man. But, you know, I had to go if classic extended clip fashion, mentioned the lowbrow comparison.
Of course, you have to. And I think a Little Man episode is definitely in order soon enough. I think that a couple factors contribute to the creepiness of that character. And one is that he's the master of the house, despite being an 8-year-old boy or whatever. So them calling him Master Miles, despite being a little boy. And also, British children are horrifying. British children are so scary. They're the scariest nation of children, for sure. And it's not their fault. They're just terrifying.
I feel like the fact that they're British makes them sort of sound more adult.
Yeah,
like,
that's
it
what I was
is
thinking.
weird to imagine a child with that accent, and I think that's part of the unease.
Speaking of demonic children, my demonic child, Fat Boris, is just being a fucking nonce right now.
Boris is averaging, I would say, 3.5 interruptions per episode at this point. Boris's interruption rate is
It's the
going
fifth mic.
crazy.
It's going crazy. He used to be a lot better about it, although he did also used to unplug the equipment here and there, which was much worse than just interrupting the podcast, I think. But yeah, the form continues to ratchet up within Miles's presence when they go horseback riding, and that scene is terrifying. Like, just the camera movement and editing of it makes it look like Miles is gonna fucking die on the horse, but he's just riding it normal. And it's just that Deborah Kerr's perspective, she's just terrified for his safety, I guess. But that scene was really jarring to me as well. And of course, you know, it's about halfway through the movie, the kids are like, let's play hide and seek instead of going to bed. And you're like, oh, great. Yeah, this should be revealing. And of course it is, as she goes into the cellar and explores the darkness and the dankness, and shit just gets creepier and creepier from there as she continues to see the apparitions of these dead old servants. And you know, the sound design is so well deployed here as she's creeping through the house and hearing the voices of the children kind of emulating these dead old servants. And, you know, there's one part where it fades from like a person asking to be kissed to then being like, don't touch there, the children are watching. And
oh my God, yeah.
The implication being that these servants who were carrying on a love affair did so in front of the children. You know, like Miss Gross said at one point that they treated like a lighted room as if it were a dark woods, which meant that they were just like fucking in broad daylight and the kids walked in on them. And so it's just like the kids are not haunted or possessed. They are maybe a little traumatized from watching their servants fuck each other. Who then died, and their servants were like their buddies too. But to Ms. Gibbon here, she, you know, it's like a demonic entity. And I don't know, these apparitions, these visions are so wonderfully staged too, because it's always just like, you know, the person's in focus. They're just far enough away though, where you can't quite figure out what they are really up to just standing there, you know. And the use of subjectivity fading into objectivity is incredible, where within a take these people will disappear and reappear toward the end when she's like trying to prove herself to Miss Gross, you know, and she's like, look, it's right there, you have to look at it, you know. And the person's there, and then the camera moves, and then the camera moves back and the person's gone. It's a very practical, stagey effect, you know, but it's expertly deployed here. And man, we've talked about it before, but these horror movies where like everyone else is you know, everyone's wrong except the main character, you know how like frustrating and powerful that is. This is like the opposite, where you know she's crazy but you still are along for the ride. You're like, no, you know, I don't know, it's just such an immensely moving movie. And like I don't know, just purely through like stylistic means and old school storytelling, it when I say that it predates the future of horror films, I mean that a lot of horror films will use aesthetic trademarks from this film, but I don't really think that this feels like a horror film out of the 70s or 80s or anything like that. It really does just feel like you're using all that you had at your advantage in 1961 to make a horror film about the last, 80 years of gothic horror narrative.
Like a ghost on its own, I guess they're creeping around your house and you're like, what is that? That is scary, but I feel like it quadruples it when you have sexual ghosts. Yeah. That's scary. That quadruples my fear, because it's like, I don't know, just those scene where Kerr's kind of like walking through the hallway and you hear like these kind of hushed kind of like, you know, sexual utterings that, you know, I guess they kind of power through and, you know, just do their thing anyways. It's just it's so creepy. And just like the I don't know, there's just a lot, because it is explicit in that, yeah, like they like you do like the servants were like having sex, and it basically like, you know, spells that out for the viewer. But then it's just like they're possessing these kids. Is that what's going on? They're possessing these kids to like stay alive, and I don't know. There's just a lot of even creepier stuff that kind of feels that's left unsaid with like the ghost's gambit here, like what they're trying to achieve.
Well, so what you were saying about sexual ghosts, Malcolm, especially because it's framed from the perspective of a character who is a woman of faith, it makes it particularly spooky because it's spooky to her. It's the contrast between sin and faith.
Yeah.
So it's really like she's looking at the devil, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any kind of like haunted house movie in the setting, like it's kind of like about how a little bit about how like, you know, Victorian era stuff is like very repressive, and like I don't know, I feel like that's a great strength of this movie, that it's reflected in like everything, not just like the villains or the children, but you know, heavily in the main character and the setting, and you know, Kerr's psychology, like, you know, you guys are saying, even though she's right, it just seems like she's just on such a tense tightrope that I don't know, it just seems like she could snap, or I don't know, you just don't know how she's gonna react to everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a fantastic interior performance, and the camera is like in her face for so much of this, but I don't know, it's like she never goes too over the top, but at the same time it's like leaning into a kind of mid-century theatrical performance style, so she's allowed to go over the top a little bit. And I just can't hammer home enough the point of how like creepy British kids are, and like how the filmmaking, even though it's a British production, like they know how creepy that is, you know? Like around midway through when they're like, she's first telling Ms. Gross about her suspicions, and then the kids are like, all right, time for tonight's entertainment, and they're like in costumes with candles, and he like recites this fucking demonic poem.
Well, there's also just something so creepy about little kids like that acting so adult. That's
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
that's why that's why the original video of Lights Camera Jackson is so weird, because he's talking like an adult, and he's like a 10-year-old boy being like, well, here's the thing about the movie that I saw. And it's like, please calm down, be a child, go to the park.
Exactly. It's Inception didn't even make any sense. That was his big thing when
Nobody
it came out.
knew what it meant. It's like, well, maybe because you're 8.
Yeah, it's because you're a child, and you were more focused on your gummy worms and having to go pee pee.
I'm sure I've sent you this before, Eddie, but when that first dropped, they dunked on it on Howard Stern with George Takei in there. And
So good.
George Takei just goes, "You're right, Howard. He is a little freak."
I'm just imagining like a critics roundtable. You know, it's like a bunch of critics, and like a child LCJ is at it, and just one of the adult critics just rips on Lights Camera Jackson so hard in a way Eddie just did. It's like, you were more focused on the candy. You don't even know what's you know, he needed to be taken to task. Everyone was just kind of entertained. It's like, oh, it's a kid talking like an adult, and he's got opinions, you know, and you know, it would have been better for his development. I think it would have paid off in the long run for him if he was
you know, like
heavier.
maybe I'd trust his opinions on like Pokemon cards, or like, you know, Peppa Pig.
Shooting jacks, marbles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever play Jacks?
No.
Not really.
I actually did. I guess I was that poor.
Well, was it something?
I played
feel like
pickup
that's
sticks.
a game you play at your grandparents' house or something.
That's true. It was at my grandma's.
There you go.
But I feel like someone brought it to school that wasn't me once, and I played it at school once. And I got to be honest,
I played some marbles.
I never really got Jacks. Like,
Well, I think that's
kid,
one
it
of those
confounded
games.
me.
It's like you probably, when you're a kid, you just don't even know the rules and you make it up as you go along.
yeah,
True.
probably.
So you bounce the ball and get the jacks, right? Is
Yeah,
that how
you
it
pick
works?
up
Yeah.
as many jacks as you can while the
While
ball is
we're on
bouncing.
this tangent of childhood
course.
games, I just
Yes.
one of the memories of childhood that I have that really makes me feel bad, like about being mean as a kid, is I remember I would collect Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon cards and never
Nice.
had any. I never learned at all how to play the games properly, and like I have just this memory of recess, like. Me and my buddy were like, dude, we're going to tag team against these kids in a grade younger than us again on Yu-Gi-Oh! And me and my buddy didn't know the rules. And these kids
Yeah.
clearly knew the rules. But we were older. And so we're just putting down random cards. And we're like, okay, so we kill you now. And the kid's like, no, that's not how it works. And then we're like, no, that's how it works. We fucking,
That's
and he's like,
amazing.
what are you doing? You can't do that. And we're like, yeah, actually, our characters are combined now. And it makes us super... Yeah, the kid just had a meltdown, and we're like, we got his ass.
So nobody knew how to play those games, so the childhood mythology of the cards themselves was sick. Like,
Yeah.
I remember one kid saying that if you put this is one of the stupidest things that I can't believe someone actually believed. Because we were like 7 by this point. He was like, well, if you put 2 of the same Pokemon card like in the same sleeve overnight, it'll evolve.
Yeah, oh, I love that.
Wow, that's cool. I kind of wish that is how they worked. That would be cool if that's how they worked.
Just magic.
I have a childhood or game check. When's the last time you guys played hide and seek?
That's
Fun game, right?
I'll play with my niece and nephew here and there. I mean, not anymore actually, because now they're too old for it. But like when my niece was like 6 and my nephew was like 3 or 4, we would play once in a while, you know. At my grandma's place that was big and lots of good hiding places. But as one of the real participants and not as like a babysitter figure, I feel like I played it kind of late. Like I played it once when I was like 16.
And he's just 21 years old playing hide and seek.
Yeah, on this college campus.
No one wants to fucking play with me. No one wants to play hide and seek with me.
I remember one of my friends in like 9th grade being like, dude, we should have like an epic hide and seek game.
I mean, here's the thing. That shit, they did do that shit in high school. But it was like it turned into a different thing where cars were involved and you like.
Oh, that's
hide-
crazy.
Like, yeah, no, they would do that shit in high school. We're playing Fugitive. Did you guys ever play Fugitive in high
I
school?
think we
No.
called it
Sounds
Manhunt where I grew up.
Manhunt. Like
Yeah.
someone like and like the whole fucking like 100 people were involved, and it's like a big thing. Yeah.
That's crazy. No, the one I was describing was like the variant on the game, the reverse hide and seek, Sardines. That's what I played with my friends like once or twice in high school and was like, are we 7 years old? But it was kind
how
of
does that
fun to
work?
be honest.
So like
Sardi-
one person hides and like 4 people try to find them or whatever.
No, it's everybody. Yeah, no, it's I think it's one person hides, and then when someone finds them, they just join them in the hiding spot.
Oh.
And you're packed in like sardines, you know. And then the last
That's
person to
intriguing.
find them is it next time, maybe? I don't remember. But I just remember being in like a tiny little closet with my friends and being like, we're too old to be playing this. This is stupid. This is gay.
I played,
you know?
I played hide and seek in an Airbnb. I think when I was like 20 at like Lake Tahoe. So I win.
Friends or family?
Friends.
Wow. That is the dub. You get the dub there.
Hide and seek champion.
The hide and seek champion. It is like, I feel like that was a trend like when we were in high school though. Like I guess now they would call it Reddit, but like you know, very like of that time on the internet, like you would see it on Facebook, like teens to young adults playing childhood games, you know? Like I remember in high school,
True.
again, using this phrase, someone was like, dude, we should get like an epic like kickball league going.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, man.
I'm also
But
now
I see
realizing
that.
that this is like the premise of Squid Games.
is it?
Yeah, it's,
I've
like,
never-
it's it's doing like a Hunger Games style thing, but making people play childhood games.
Oh, so what do they play? Like Ring Around the
They
Rosie?
play like red light, green light. They play some Korean shit that we don't know.
Yeah.
Damn, I want to know these games from other countries.
Yeah.
I'm in a childish mindset right now. We gotta get out of this.
Yeah. Let's go back to the fucking movie.
Anyway, childhood games, we were led there by the hide and seek that unveils everything. I really think that this film also, like, it pulls off having a separate finale that's creepier than everything, I think, which is hard to do because, like, this whole movie has been mounting this tension throughout. And then with, like, 10 minutes left, you think the movie basically could end right there, but she's like, you know what? Everybody out. Just me and Miles. We're just hashing this thing out together. And I think that final quasi showdown is fantastic. It's like real psychological warfare between the two characters, and Miles like kind of playing into her game to try to appease her a little bit because he realizes he's a child in the presence of an insane adult, you know? And also just being scared of her and her being scared of the situation. And then also the apparition of the male servant appearing in the window, laughing as to mock her.
Who is a really scary looking guy, by the way. He really looks creepy.
Yeah, he's like a woodsman from Twin Peaks. Yeah. It's super creepy. And I just find that ending to be like really, really awesome. Also, when he throws the tortoise through the window. I was just dying. Like I was like very tense during that moment, but I just couldn't help but crack up when he just like the little kid gets too intense for the moment and throws his sister's tortoise through a window.
Oh man,
that tortoise really went through the ringer.
You guys gotta look at the IMDb, or not the IMDb, the Letterboxd profile picture of the guy who plays the male apparition, Peter Wingard.
Okay.
Look up.
Oh, yeah.
His profile picture's sick. He looks awesome.
Oh, wow. This guy rules. I really loved this movie. Obviously, it tickled a certain fancy of mine, speaking of literature, but in terms of just a movie on its own, as a horror movie to watch in October, it was fantastic. I think that it's a complete aesthetic feat with the widescreen cinematography that is like not really, I would say, classically beautiful. It's really jagged and out there and like has some very striking, odd, disconcerting images. And I think that's what horror should do often, like there are exceptions. Like Kubrick can just be pure beautiful and still terrifying with The Shining. But this film is just so off-putting the whole way through, and I'm gonna go 4.5 bullets on Innocence, one of my favorite discoveries of the year. What about you, Rob?
I'm going 4.5 bullets. I've been enjoying the series that we've been doing, and I've enjoyed watching all the movies, but not necessarily some heavy hitters. Like some of them have been meh, some of them have been pretty good. This is by far the best one we've covered. 4.5 bullets. Gorgeous. I can't wait to revisit it. Before I watched this for the pod, I just prematurely bought the Blu-ray. I was like, why not? Oh, it's not streaming on Criterion Channel. I don't even think you can rent it. And I was like, I could torrent it, but I was like, yeah, I'll just get the Blu-ray. And I'm really glad I did because it looked so good. And yeah, awesome movie.
Yeah, no, I mean the Blu-ray that I have the, file from, admittedly. Sorry if you're listening. Whoever sold that Blu-ray, send me and I'll promo it. It's a great transfer, man. Like it looks fantastic, and as much as I would love to see it on a print, like a beaten up print would kind of dampen the harsh blacks and whites. And I would like really love to see this like pristine, big, like either a crisp, DCP or, a perfect 35 millimeter print. But I would also take a beaten up 16 print of it just as a different experience. But man, you got to luxuriate in the great widescreen here. What about you, Malcolm?
Yeah, I'm going to join you guys. I'm going to go 4.5 bullets as well. This is just such a strong collaboration from all like the main above the line creators involved, for cinematography, editing, the acting, specifically with Kerr. But, these kids are great too. I mean, Miles, he does, he's creepier than Damien, if you ask me, from the Omen, just maybe because of his quasi-sexual antics. But, I really do agree that I feel like this is very influential. Another movie that I thought about that kind of tried to steal this one's swag a little bit that I hated. I don't think I'll be revisiting it. Mother, Aronofsky's Mother, where I feel like it kind of deploys a similar technique where like Jennifer Lawrence's face is, on screen for a majority of the movie. And here, just I don't know, just Kirstie, she's such a good actress that, she just sells this material, and then Freddie Francis gets to just go crazy with the CinemaScope and kind of just get really creative with just kind of ways to discontent you. And, in a little light research I did, I think Clayton said he wanted to do standard format at first, just because that's what he was used to. And I think Francis convinced him, and then Clayton's like, I'm so glad he convinced me, because there's just so much ideas you could fit into a CinemaScope frame. You could really just kind of get really creative, and they really did do that here. And the score's great as well. This is just firing on all cylinders. And I do agree, Eddie. That's a good point. Like the ending is creepier than the entire movie. One of the aforementioned adult child kiss moments that happen in this movie, the way that's kind of like the final thing in this movie, it just there's no easy out for this one. And it just feels ahead of its time too. I've never quite gotten into like the Hammer horror movies. Like I feel like I could, but this just feels just kind of miles ahead from what I've seen of that variety of movie. So yeah, great work.
JT, what about you? Are we going 8 cents here?
Yes, we are. I'm also hitting it with the 4.5. Just an amazing, stylish, genuinely very disturbing film. People talk about how like child safety, people didn't give a shit. Like back in like the 50s, 60s, whatever, they didn't know. Like in jolly old England, they didn't know what nonces even were. Like you hear about people in the States and whatnot, where it's just like, oh man, like this guy's just handing out balloons, and we didn't think nothing of it. But like it was, I mean, again, obviously there's like a suspension of disbelief here. Obviously she is the governess, but at the point where she's just like telling everyone to like ship off and like, I'm gonna just deal with this boy one-on-one. Like after like shaking the shit out of Flora, I think it's just a very funny beat that it's just like, yeah, okay, like just like, yeah, no, this is a reasonable way we'll hear this out. She's gonna just duke it out with the child. And I do admire, like, I think part of the fact that makes the ending so genuinely creepy is they have the balls to kill the kid and go that far. I think it is, like, I don't know, all that much more like genuinely disturbing because of that. And I guess the last thing that I wanted to say, this is not really about the innocence, but just as a general note. Malcolm, I know you're wary of sexual ghosts, but I would say I just rewatched Scary Movie 2, and there is a particular scene with Tori Spelling and a ghost that is of a sexual nature. I'd say
hot.
Yeah, check that out, man.
Yeah.
You might be
might change
just
my
to
mind.
just to get a different perspective.
Yeah, you might be moaning a different tune.
Well, there's that movie Ghost I've never seen, but that's a sexual ghost, right?
That is
maybe
true.
sexual.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Sexual
any
ghosts-
character played by Patrick Swayze is sexual.
That is true. That has to be taken into factor. But yeah, maybe sexual ghosts can be kind of cool. I guess there's a pro and con to everything, and kind of just thinking about what the pros could be right now. Maybe they were, I don't know. I don't want to be definitive about anything. I'm very open-minded.
Yeah. We'll be right back on Extended Clip.
I want to do is save the children, not destroy them.
And we're back on Extended Clip. It's everybody's favorite segment. It's Malcolm in the Middle, baby. Malcolm, baby.
Eddie Powers over here.
Wow, it's like you were taken over by a sexual ghost.
I don't like that at all. Probably even maybe cut around it a little bit. But Malcolm, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I saw a movie, and you know what? We've been doing these horror movies. I'll give you another horror, the horror of getting canceled, and that's the subject of the movie After the Hunt by Luca Guadagnino, where we go to the Yale campus, and through the Julia Roberts professor point of view, she kind of sees two colleagues, one a fellow professor, Andrew Garfield, and a student being played by Ayo Edebiri. And there's an incident where after a great academic party where all the great concepts are being discussed, the Andrew Garfield character offers to walk the student home, and there's kind of a sexual assault that is accused of going on. And Julia Roberts is like this Andrew Garfield professor's best friend, almost seeming like even more than friends, maybe kind of a quasi-sexual relationship there. And she also has her own baggage and feelings about these certain situations, and it's kind of this kind of overheated drama, kind of, I guess, melodrama you would call it. And then Michael Stuhlbarg, Michael Serious Man, plays Julia Roberts' husband, who is, they do hang out, but just it seems like their relationship is not of one of husband and wife, just kind of just very distant and disagreeable. And I thought this movie was all right. It was maybe, I don't know, like I feel like it's kind of trying to maybe misdirect you, kind of like make you think that the obvious thing that probably did happen maybe didn't, and it kind of has, I guess, what you call these red herrings a little bit, but it's kind of more about the psychology of the Julia Roberts character. And I guess, I don't know, it just felt a bit laborious at times, but then there were also times where I kind of got into it. So I don't know, I guess I thought I found it somewhat entertaining, but I kind of wasn't satisfied by the results of everything. Just a mixed bag there. It is, I liked Queer and Challengers much better, I guess, in terms of the Luca rankings or whatever. And I guess my enjoyment of those two movies directed me to go see this one. A lot of negative reactions walking out of the theater. I don't know if it was just my specific screening, but there was a lot of people being like, that fucking sucked. So little man on the street reporting. It was the classic Batman themed AMC Burbank 16. So
the house that Lex built.
Describing it as Batman themed.
Yeah, it's not Batman themed. There's a Batman statue that is closer to the Yard House than it is the AMC even.
Although I don't know, maybe we need a Halloween mindset expert, because maybe the Joker's not so Halloween. But I think I did see a "Why So Serious" quote somewhere inside the AMC. So
it's true.
that's further evidence to my case. You could,
That is a Batman themed AMC.
So
you could
the
believe
AMCs, for the most part, have movie quotes in the bathroom. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And yes, the AMC Burbank 16 does feature "Why So Serious," one of the great quotes in cinema history.
One of the great quotes.
I've looked at that while peeing a lot. Like it's the it's the bathroom that like is on the left side when you walk in.
Yeah, I feel like
It
I've
is
never
kind of a
noticed it
nice
before.
message to intake while you're peeing. Get a little devilish
exactly.
side there.
Yeah. Why so serious? Get a little devilish, you know? I want to see it. It's weird that it's not playing the Lemley. We do a lot of free promo for the Lemley chain on this podcast, and I just canceled my AMC A-list. And then this movie's only playing fucking AMC in like the Draft House, and obviously I'm not going to go to the goddamn Draft House. But I'll see it eventually.
One point I want to give to this movie, it does have Adam Sandler level product placement in a way that I kind of enjoy, just seeing like characters pig out on like a Kit Kat bar. I don't know.
Nice.
Well,
that was in Challengers too.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but Challengers is under like the guise of it being like a tennis movie, so it's like that's kind of part of the narrative is all the branding,
all the sponsorships therein.
It's woven into elegantly.
So yeah.
No, and I like Challengers a lot, but it also does very prominently feature a lot of logos, and them going to Applebee's or whatever doesn't really have to do with the tournament.
That's a good point.
And the Applebee's is one of the best images in the movie, and I like Challengers. That's probably my favorite Guadagnino movie. JT, what about you?
I have finally been in the holiday spirit. I feel like after like the production of the movie kind of bleeding into October, I just wasn't able to watch a lot of movies at all during that time. And like I think having that just like eager anticipatory feeling to watch something, like hitting the ground running with horror movies again, has been really nice. And after we watched and discussed The Fog on the podcast, I was like, okay, well, I want to spend some time with my buddy John Carpenter again. And I had the day off yesterday, and I just watched just movies all day. And I started with Prince of Darkness, which felt like one that I was like a little bit underrating. Like I definitely grew on it a little bit more this time around, but just felt very similar in terms of like atmospheric, like The Fog, to start off. And yeah, I don't know, just one of his best. Truly some very disturbing, creepy stuff. All the like bug like work, the man just kind of like who's waiting outside, and I think he like kind of his limbs like sort of like dissolve into like beetles at a point is like perfectly disgusting. And yeah, I don't know, I just love the very like simple like evil of like, okay, we have this like kind of a portal to hell that's there. Yeah, I don't know, it was an awesome time, and has me eager to revisit more Carpenter this season. Like the last few years, I think every Halloween I've tried to watch a lot of like new horror movies, and that's obviously like fine and dandy, but sometimes you just got to revisit the true blue classics.
Yeah, I find myself doing that more and more every October, despite loving to watch new stuff like horror, especially the more like, well, I would actually go both ways for the actually scary quote-unquote ones and the more like fun kind of campy ones. They pretty much get better every time, like the best ones at least. And that's why I watch like certain Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street entries every year or every other year, you know? Like this, yeah, I watched Halloween again this week, and like I probably watch that almost every year. Rob, what'd you watch this week?
Okay, so I've watched a bunch of stuff, and there's many things I could talk about that I would like to, like Cherry Falls or Dario Argento's Inferno or Fright Night or even Toolbox Murders Toby Hooper. Instead, I want to talk about a screening Malcolm and I went to of Fade to Black. And mainly I want to talk about it is because I got some things I got to get off my chest about the LA repertory audience. All right.
Oh, boy.
Because someone insulted me. Not insulted me, but was disrespectful to me in a way that I didn't appreciate. So on Saturday night, Malcolm and I, after a couple drinks at a buddy's birthday party, we went down to the New Beverly to catch a midnight screening of Fade to Black, which is a film by, let's see the director's name, Vernon Zimmerman. Oh, one of us. Zimmerman. So yeah, Vernon Zimmerman, and it's about a lonely cinephile boy who who loves three things in life. He loves smoking cigarettes, he loves watching movies, and he loves blonde women that look like Marilyn Monroe. The print we saw was kind of beat up, but it was cool. It was Quentin Tarantino's personal print, and I'll have to add, I think this film was probably really inspirational to True Romance because it's a very similar concept, and I think there's a look of the main girl that he even steals for Alabama in that movie, I think. Anyway, so basically this lonely boy, he asks this chick out on a date who looks like Marilyn Monroe, and he's obsessed with her because she looks like Marilyn Monroe. And she likes him. She actually thinks he's cool and agrees to go on a date with him. And she stands him up on the date, but not because she wants to, just because she actually forgets. And so, like, he's waiting outside the movie house for her to come, like, 2 hours. Meanwhile, she's on she's meeting a different boy, and then realizes, oh shit, I forgot to meet up with this guy. Okay, anyway. So now he's like looking to pick up a hooker, like he's in rage mode. And then, long story short, he decides he's going to go on a killing spree. But not only is he going to go on a killing spree, he wants to wear costumes while he does it. So he dresses up in all his costumes of all his favorite villains in all the movies. He kills a prostitute dressed as Dracula. He kills his boss, who he hates, as the Mummy. He kills Mickey Rourke as the Phantom of the Opera. Is that right, Malcolm? Is that who he kills him as? I think so.
Yeah,
anyway,
he kills his aunt, Shadow of a Doubt style, too.
Yeah, he kills his aunt, who we learn actually was his mother, and she was lying to him. Okay, so that's the movie. So now, we're at a midnight screening. I'm a couple drinks deep. And I, as an adult, have never, not once in my life, been to a midnight screening and been able to stay up all the way through. It won't happen. I'm 28 years old. I'm getting older. Zone out's going to happen, right? So I zoned out a little bit. And I lean over to my buddy Malcolm after I'm done.
You fell asleep.
I fell asleep. I zonked out. I leaned over to my buddy Malcolm and very politely asked him, like, I was like, it was like about a 10-second little, maybe 5-second, trying to get a grasp on what I might have missed, right? All of a sudden I hear, will you stop talking? Like as if we had been talking throughout the whole movie. It wasn't, hey guys, can you please shh, or whatever. It was like, can you stop talking? Like I've been Brenda in Scary Movie 1, which was not the fucking case. And I just want to tell you, like, look, I get it. Talking in movies is bad. There's a difference between having a fucking conversation in a movie and what I was doing, which was, hey, you know what I mean? And it's a midnight fucking screening of this shitty movie. Not shitty, but you know what I mean. This fucking...
Yeah.
This is the type of movie that you should be talking through. This is we should all be fucking doing bits while watching this goddamn movie, and fuck this guy, and again, if you want to fuck, I hear people talk during movies. It bothers me. You know what I do? I'm an adult. I wait. I give it a little I assume they'll probably stop eventually. I don't fucking say anything. Now, if they had a full-on conversation, I get it. Give me the business. That ain't what was happening. And so, sir, if you're listening to this, let's have a conversation, because your business was far more inappropriate than mine. End of story.
Did you see him outside the theater afterwards?
I
Did
was
you take a
blind
look?
with
Do you know what this
rage.
guy looks
I was
like?
blind, no, but if I ever see him again, I'm going to give him a talking to.
Whatever happened to a good old shush?
Yeah, just give me
Yeah.
the shh.
I've heard a lot of people say, like, don't shush me, I'm an adult. And, like, I've heard that in other contexts, and I'm like, you know, I kind of prefer a shush to a, like, will you stop talking? Like,
He was loud. He did the full projection voice of, like, I'm a big man, and I'm going to... It's like, wow, you deserve a fucking medal.
yeah.
I hope that guy dies.
I feel like I've told someone to shut up in a movie once, and it's because I don't know. I was probably just very felt very like in my rights to have a perfect theater experience, and someone was being annoying, and I was just like, shut up. Oh, it's because they were talking to the screen. That's what it was. They were trying to do bits.
Yeah, see, we weren't doing bits. I needed a little bit of information that I missed.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to give people a little bit of grace. Like, if
At a midnight screening,
what I missed getting called out is crazy.
Yeah.
But they encourage that culture over there.
And
you know
again,
what I mean?
this was halfway through the movie, so it's not like it was a recurring thing and we had been a problem the entire movie.
Exactly, yeah.
So fuck that guy and anyone who thinks like him.
We got smoke for him.
We got smoke. And if you're listening to this thinking Rob Franco is wrong, you're wrong, buddy. You're the problem. I am always vindicated.
Another thing.
And another thing.
If anyone at the Ringer is listening to this, no, just kidding.
Hey, that's your own shit, man. Don't put that on me. I'm not ready for that fight yet.
I'm joking. Yeah, I haven't watched all that much. Oh, I watched the Nick Newman cut of The Unknown. The Unknown is a Todd Browning movie that we did on the podcast like 5 years ago. And then like a year ago, Bob Dylan randomly tweeted, Nick Newman was asking me for a movie recommendation, and I told him to watch The Unknown with Lon Chaney and go from there. And one of the greatest tweets ever posted, probably. So a year later, I was not very surprised when Nick texted me, hey, can I send you, something I'm working on? And it was The Unknown scored to Bob Dylan, deep cuts, live cuts, rarities, outtakes, It was awesome, and it just made me think about silent film music and how bad it is, and like how... there's exceptions to the rule. Like, we've talked about some of them on this podcast. Like, Sunrise had a score that came with it. All the Chaplin movies, even the ones that weren't released with scores, eventually had scores composed by Chaplin for them. But so many movies, man, like, the music just stinks and totally takes you out of it. And it's like, I really think that the lack of dialogue is not what holds people back from getting into silent movies. It is the vibe of those dingy old soundtracks. And we've talked about this before. Like when we did Within Our Gates, that has a great, like, anachronistic soundtrack by DJ Spooky that's really cool and works great with the movie too. But a lot of times it's just this like rickety old-timey bullshit that doesn't have anything to do with the actual text or emotions of the movie. And so seeing like the dissonance but general aesthetic correlation between the work of Bob Dylan and this movie was great, because Bob Dylan, like part of his origin story is like circus freak shit, and there's constant references in his songs to the kind of imagery that you see in silent movies like this. And also, there are certain fits that Lon Chaney wears in this that are very evocative of 2010's Bob Dylan on stage outfits as well. And I just had such a great time revisiting one of the great silent films that I've seen. Curated so perfectly. Like, there are a couple songs that, like, the lyrical content is like very much what's happening on screen, and you know, the rest of it is a lot more abstract and more vibes based, I guess you could say. But I just really got to commend our boy Nick Newman, and also Todd Browning and Lon Chaney, of course, and Mr.
Who
Dillon.
are also our boys.
Yeah.
Also our boys, yes. And also just like, as a general message, you know, if you're having trouble getting into silent movies, just like listen to your own music that's not going to be like too distracting, but just like either soothing enough or you think fits the vibe or something. And you'll probably get more out of the movie, even if it's not exactly how it was quote unquote intended to be watched, you know? But that's just me. Maybe you'll, you know, go and watch a King Vidor silent while listening to old episodes of Come Town. You know, maybe that's your vibe.
Bro, trust me on this. Fire up Intolerance. Fire up Hans Zimmer Inception soundtrack. That's a good night right there.
Exactly. Or Birth of a Nation.
Whoa.
And any number of very popular podcasts these days.
Damn. Hear that,
See,
Joe Rogan?
I was gonna go like Birth of a Nation and then like NWA, like something. Cool.
Oh, that's real dissonance.
That's
Yeah, I like that. That's the dialectics.
Exactly.
Rob is always texting me shit about dialectics, and I'm like, bro, what are you saying?
So about dialectics.
They're so good.
All right, that's going to do it on this episode. Join us on the Patreon to get an extra episode every single week, and email us at extendedclippodcast@gmail.com. You write it, we read it. And also, if I am looking at the schedule correctly, I think this is the last episode of the Baby Bobby Franco Takeover proper.
No!
Rob,
So sad.
I know it was briefly abridged this time around, but it is always our pleasure to have you on as our resident seasonal expert and the fourth mic on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
As always, it's a pleasure to come, and look forward to be back next year as long as Eddie doesn't get into more fights. Might have to cut ties. Sorry. I look forward to coming back next year. I loved every moment of this. I love you boys, and happy Halloween.
And another thing.
And another thing.
Goodbye, everybody.